We're right at 6:30. Started recording. Let's go. First order of business on officers.
First order of business is vote. Everybody has looked at the agenda, correct?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, who's that?
What the hell's going on?
What the hell's going on here?
Nothing, but we can hear you.
We hear you, George.
Where did you go? Where did you go? Okay, George.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, George Ryan, are you there?
Can you guys hear me?
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Anthony, you're starting?
Just waiting for us all to get together. I think we're good to go. Now.
Okay, first thing we have to do before we do anything else, VOTE.
Okay. Well.
Hi, Evan.
We were proposing the same slate of officers as currently hold.
Your sound is very bad. Anthony.
Let me adjust that.
Hi, Evan.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Yeah, welcome. Hi. Anthony, you have the video started, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Good to go. That's my audio now.
Okay. Oh, hey, there's me. Okay.
I guess I'm the only with attitude.
Okay, Anthony, ball's in your court.
Okay. Voting on officers currently.
Your sound is terrible, Anthony.
It's breaking up.
Is this any better?
Okay. Yeah, it is. All right, say it again, please.
We are voting
on the
present slate of officers as they currently stand. With me as chair, George Ryan as vice chair, and Maureen as secretary. Unless there are any other candidates or objections.
Anybody else want to jump in?
That would be nice.
George?
No comment.
Ryan?
Okay, Anthony, move it.
Okay.
Okay.
We need a motion.
I motion to accept.
I'll second the motion.
Gary Gregory?
Gary, what are you approving? You got your hand up.
The motion.
The motion, I thought.
Oh. Okay, well, the next step is to vote.
Okay.
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 Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I guess I. Okay, so we approve the agenda, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, carry on.
Earlier
Earlier
business.
business.
We're talking about the
We're
Ames
talking about the Ames
property.
property.
Is that as
Is
it
that as it
relates
relates
to
to
the
the
saga of the
saga
Beavers?
of the Beavers?
Anthony,
You still have a
delay there,
delay there,
so your voice
so
is
your
very
voice
hard
is
to
very hard to
understand.
understand.
Let me jump off
Let me
and I'll
jump
jump
off
right
and I'll
back
jump
on real
right back
quick.
on real quick.
It might be
It
helpful
might be
if
helpful
everybody
if
mutes,
everybody mutes,
if everybody
if
mutes
everybody mutes
themselves,
Right.
unless they're speaking.
Here I am. I don't know what the delay is. Is that working better?
Sounds better.
I'm gonna keep my
Yeah,
video off then.
That's much better.
Sounds much better.
I don't know. I'm on this thing all day long on Zoom calls, and never seems to be an issue.
It's perfect now for me.
If I could jump in, it's Amanda Blair, and Evan is with us. We are the co-chairs of
Ah,
the
I can hardly hear.
Commission. And I don't know if you happened to read last Friday the Tim Griswold's letter to the public, in which he mentioned that the Open Space Commission was awarded an environmental grant from the Rockfall Foundation to protect and offer public education about beavers within the Ames family open space. Surveys will determine if any beaver dams are affecting private property, and if so, solutions will be implemented. Measures will be taken to deter vandalism to dams that have no impact on private property. The commission will also use wildlife cameras and other means to show how beaver dams naturally transform streams into ponds, which over time will create meadows. As time goes on, the meadows will ultimately revert to forested land and will benefit numerous forms of wildlife. This is a policy that the Open Space Commission adopted over 2 years ago, and the last Midsummer's Festival that we had, our feature was eager beavers, and we did numerous poster boards and presentations with the theme, Let It Be, Let the Beavers Be. And Evan's going to join in and tell you the benefits of beavers on open space.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here, be along with you. I feel that part of our mission as the Open Space Commission and an offshoot, now pretty separate from the Conservation Commission, but nevertheless an offshoot of the Conservation Commission, which I joined in 1981. Part of our mission is the conservation of biodiversity within the town of Old Lyme, and that includes wildlife that is returning to New England, has returned to New England after a couple of 100 years of being absent, and the return of the benefits of certain types of wildlife including beavers. And there seems to be much more recent recent investigation of the benefits of having beavers as part of a watershed and part of the ecosystem. So one of them obviously is the impoundment of water, which is what beavers do to survive. They build dams, they raise the water level in which they live and work. They are nature's engineers. And as a result, they create the ponds, which sort of slows down the water system. It impounds sediment, which is coming down the stream from the top of the watershed, and which obviously is something that we want to encourage as the sediment continues downstream into larger rivers and eventually into Long Island Sound. Also, part of that sediment is the capture of pollution. A lot of chemicals and particles of pollution bind themselves to the sediment, which then falls to the bottom of the ponds and is captured in the soil, which eventually will become meadows as the beavers move on to new areas where the food source and the living is better. So there's a certain evolution in beaver ponds, and so there's also an evolution of wildlife that benefits from beaver ponds, starting with the things like wood ducks and other kinds of waterfowl.
Evan, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you a quick sec? Just for sake of time, because I'm not really sure that we were anticipating the conversation going. I mean, I enjoy this conversation, this topic, but I'm just curious, where are we going? Is this just an educational for us? I mean,
well, it's
trying to get an idea. I appreciate you and Amanda calling in. I'm just trying to see where we're going with this for sake of our meeting agenda.
Well, I think for the sake of the meeting, I'd like to have the Conservation Commission join us in having wildlife as part of our community, and I know that there have been issues of trails in the open space areas that have been flooded, and I think my sense is that if we're going to keep a viable ecosystem alive, that we have to bend with nature, and not feel that the trails preempt the natural ecosystems. So there are lots of places. Fortunately, Old Lyme has been very good about between the Land Trust and the Open Space Commission and the Conservation Commission. There are lots of places to walk, and I must say I am very grateful to George for creating innumerable trails and lots of miles of trails. But once in a while, when nature steps in the case, and in this case in beavers, we have to acknowledge that maybe the natural system overtops human convenience. So that's pretty much what I was talking about.
Okay, so where can we come together on, like, what are we talking about? And we've had discussions pertaining to conservation's role in sustainable CT and how that how we can help accumulate, credits towards that using, educational programs. And as Amanda mentioned, this has been done in the past, and that has been an educational component on its own.
Yeah, well, we now have the Rockfall Foundation has given us a grant to highlight the beaver activity on the Ames property, and I think that's an important educational component of what the Open Space Commission, which, by the way, is now a separate and distinct entity from the Conservation Commission, as the Wetlands Commission is as well. So it's the board of the Conservation Commission has decided that that the natural environment takes precedent over human use at this point. In some instances, obviously, if the beavers are threatening private property or town infrastructure, that's something that we have to deal with. But when it doesn't, if it's just a hiking trail, I think we ought to leave the beavers alone.
Anybody else have any input on that?
Anthony, it's Amanda Blair again. I think,
Hey, Amanda.
and thank you for letting us kind of come into your meeting. I think when we saw your agenda, we were just a little confused why you would have the Ames open space, which is under our jurisdiction, on your agenda. So that's why we decided to attend, because we weren't sure what you all were doing. So that's why we thought it'd be an opportunity for all of us to discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know exactly what we're doing with it either. We have a lot of open discussions that somehow make their way into the agenda.
Okay, well, we all want to work together on this, and that's our main concern.
I was thinking if we could get some beaver deceivers in there, we'd have control of the beavers essentially as where they are right now.
Gary, first of all, it's not affecting any private property, so why would we put a beaver deceiver? Why would we, impede the beavers? That's their land, and there are other beaver dams outside of open space that are affecting us too. So it kind of goes in line that we have, between other parties and us, we have a few beaver dams, and that's what we're trying to develop, an ecosystem for the beaver dams. And we've been supported not only by townspeople in Old Lyme, but by this foundation, and we're applying for a second grant too. And they're very eager to see it. Audubon's interested. They do field trips. They bring the kids. Lyme just did a whole presentation on beaver dams. The public library in Old Lyme has done them. So I think there's a great deal of interest, and I think educating the public is an important part of both of our missions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think conservation has officially taken a position on the matter. I think from personal interest, this has been a topic of discussion, as it has been with a lot of people. but we've discussed it in terms of where can we throw our weight as a body to help, help the common interests.
Okay, so you're in,
So I don't think we're at odds.
okay, well, we
I-
weren't sure if you're supporting our policy, and that's why we thought we would tell you about the grants that we.
Sure, no, that's informative. I didn't know about any of that.
Great, great. Well, I'm
I'm,
glad we can all work together on it.
I'm not at odds with the beavers either, okay? But Amanda, what you said there, property damage, do we know that there is no property damage being done now?
To the best of our knowledge, do
Okay,
not, but part of the money from the grant may go to do a drone flight and overlay it with the GPS so we can see property boundary lines, and if there is a discrepancy or a flooding of private property, then yes, the beaver deceiver would be the most appropriate thing to do. We'll contact the property owner, but that's yet to be determined, Gary.
that's where I was going with that grant. If you can
Oh, yes.
determine,
And
If you
and the people that do the beaver deceivers have offered to, discount or give a grant to us for that too. So we're working with them too. We're all monitoring it at this point.
well, that's where I'm going with this. If we know there's no damage now, how much higher can we let the dams get before there will be damage? And that would be a study that would need to be done, and then we could either decide to let it go until we have to put a deceiver in, or put one in
Right.
ahead of time. Either way.
I recently was contacted by a young man who's doing some work for a land trust, and he was able to GIS from from 2010 through the years, and he can show us on the Ames property with the beaver activity where the flooding is, which will be a great tool to monitor the beaver. And then we're going to talk to him hopefully the end of March, and so we can monitor the property lines on the GIS, which will give us a better. Right now, one property that we were concerned about, their boundary line is the middle of the Black Hall River. So unless I get a boat for the surveyor to go out there, we're not going to be able to do it. So that's why these GIS levels and a drone flight would be, appropriate at that point. Any other thoughts?
Well, should we be proactive and ask those property owners along the whippoorwill there if there's any issues with that?
I have
Letter?
sent a letter to one property owner asking them, and they have not responded. They have left messages on their phone, and they have not responded. So we're proactive where it does, but we can pretty much see with GIS and Google Earth where it is. So, and I think if somebody was complaining, like there was the past with the Black Hall Pond, that we would know.
Well, I think this is Evan again. I think we'd like to see from the Conservation Commission, which is sort of the town's advisory commission on environmental matters, that we would ask that the Conservation Commission support the policies of the Open Space Commission and the Old Lyme Land Trust, that we protect beaver habitat unless it can be shown that it's interfering with private property and with infrastructure, town infrastructure such as roads and culverts and things like that.
Maureen, you're muted.
Hi, this is Maureen. A question for Evan and Amanda. Are you looking for us to agree to make a statement something that we should put in the minutes tonight, that we support what you're doing? Or is
If
this
that's,
just
if that's-
information that you're
if
providing?
that, Maureen, if that's the
consensus
of the
conservation committee,
then
then
yes, it would be
yes, it would be helpful
to
to
have
have
a statement from the commission
commission
supporting the
supporting
policy
the policy
of letting the
of
beavers
letting the
be.
beavers be.
Well, and the other thing too is that Sustainable Old Lyme Committee is going to take note of the fact that these three groups would be working together, and you know, makes it an even stronger effort, especially when Sustainable Old Lyme is working to gain points in relation to these topics. Holly, you're there. Is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm just here as a member of Sustainable Old Lyme, and I'm afraid I'm causing terrible echo on my own. Everyone.
All right.
Um,
All right.
George,
And Amanda, is there something that you have in mind for us to do as far as an action or, I don't know, a project? You have something where you want to assign to us?
No, I didn't want to speak for the open space. We just noted that we're concerned that you may not be aware of what we were doing on the open space. So that's what you can help us monitor it. If you see people breaking dams, we had someone destroying dams a couple of years ago. It was horrible. There were some dead beavers. It was horrible. So I just like to reinforce that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to officially
like
vote or make a
vote or
statement
make
on
a
this
statement on this
tonight, but
obviously
obviously, I think we're going to have a discussion, make sure we're all on the same page. But you know, I think the conversation is to be had.
Good. Well, thank you.
I appreciate you guys
Okay,
coming in and sharing that.
We appreciate your willingness to hear us out, and we look forward to whatever decision you guys decide to make.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on getting the grant. That helps to move things along for the effort too.
Yeah.
Rockwell Foundation is very supportive of local efforts like this. So good for you.
Well, good night.
Good night.
Okay, thank you. So Evan or Amanda, anything else you want to toss in here?
No, I first share your time.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for all the good work.
Very much.
Very much.
Bye.
Bye. See you all.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
George James, mute yourself,
please.
I think George is asleep. George James.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mute-
listen, I sent you a
Mute
message.
yourself.
I sent you a message on how to do it.
Anthony, you can do it.
Yeah, I'm looking him up here. Not here. All right, everybody's muted. So I can't hear if you're responding back.
I could hear you perfectly then.
Good. All right. So we'll try to boogie through really quick. I wasn't, obviously, I didn't know that was where the Ames property item line was going to take us. But I think that's where we were going with that, right?
If we want to make a statement or discuss it at all, that's up to us. Is anybody opposed to supporting them? I think, personally, I think that they carry the lead on this. This is their project, their property, and their mission. And we would do well to go along with it for a lot of reasons.
I don't have any problem with going along with it. I mean, I'm in think that we should tie them down to making sure there's no property damage being done along Whippoorwill. And then that doing a study that says if we let the beavers go and they raise that level 1 foot, 2 foot, 10 foot, where does the issue come in that we would have to install a beaver deceiver? So knowing the beavers are there and knowing it could be an issue, we would be remiss if we weren't ready for it when it happened. If they're not ready for it when it happened.
Well, okay, so I think we could make a statement that we are willing to be partners in the two groups with this effort. And by claiming partnership means that we have an obligation and an ability to submit any caveats that you want to put in there, that we agree to it. And here's the first thing that we would like to discuss or clarify and submit any, put in the minutes tonight or next week. I mean, next meeting, we could decide what it is you want to bring to the table with them. I don't think it has to be a total acceptance of what they're doing. I think a partnership means that you get a voice at the table. That's a
George, you gotta unmute.
There we go.
There you go.
Well, I think all of you have had a chance to read what I wrote up, my report on the particular Ames parcel, which is an unfortunate one in the sense that it lends itself to flooding. And what has happened, we have not just one valley flooded, but 2 valleys, 3 valleys flooded, and killing probably 12 to 1,500 trees in the process. And here is their major point, and one of the things that they were talking about was the idea that a tree removes a great deal of carbon dioxide and other chemicals from the air. And this is, as we all know, we are getting all kinds of fumes from the west over Connecticut, and particularly near the highway. So I was thinking that perhaps the human side of this should be considered, that they are being deprived of the benefit of 12 to 1,500 trees, adult trees, that are now being killed. I'm not opposed to beavers. I think the beavers are wonderful over on the Lay property. They do a great job. But here you have a very different situation where you have houses, they're back to it. You have also, if you go take a look, you will see there's a great deal of greenery growing in that pond. The one beaver pond they have is that's next to the houses. It looks as though there is some fertilization going on. There's a lot of greenery, and it doesn't go away in the winter. It's there all the time. I personally am not opposed to having them put in beaver deceivers. That would be at 2 places. One would be at the beaver dam, and the second at the culvert. And I particularly, if they are so determined and delighted to have the beavers, I would think it would be only fair then that they do the placement of the beaver deceivers and not ask the town crew to do it. because they know, we all know that the beavers will rebuild the dam very quickly. In other words, it seems to me that the conservation, excuse me, the Open Space Commission has now espoused this beaver idea absurd and overdone. Good news, funding. So you hold off any vote tonight. Very difficult to. And as you would read my presentation, and if you don't have a copy, please let me know. And as I say, I'm not on fire for against beavers. I like them, but in this particular place, we've spent just about $1 million on a property, and about 1/5 of it now is underwater. That did not used to be underwater. So these are things that they don't, the folks at Open Space, they don't want to look at. They've been enamored with the films and the presentation by this guy that they hired to come down and talk to them. And to me, they have been, I think, overpowered by it. It's interesting to me that two of the most adamant members of the community, that is, one lives with her back door on the beaver pond. That's the gal from Old-Lyme Land Trust. And then Amanda herself has a beaver that blocks her driveway regularly, floods it. So they know what the beavers are like in the negative sense as well as a positive one. So it surprises me that they are so fiery and their eagerness to have this particular beaver group remain as it is. So it's flooding. I would say 1/5 of this property that we spent a lot of money on and now is being denied access. And our cross-town trail that they've been promoting is impossible now. So there's a lot of other sides to this story. And I wouldn't want to vote today to give them a carte blanche to continue. That's what I think.
I think the big question is how much of this is our game to play. I mean, if we don't have a whole jurisdiction over this, are we just resisting them? You know, to a point where it's gonna happen. They're gonna do what they want to do anyway. It's the energy where it would be better suited to support other groups or just not resist them and not. I mean, I don't see us even having hand in this at all. We talk about this a lot, but is this even our wheelhouse?
George, mute yourself.
George.
What should I do?
Muted.
Mute.
Okay.
Unmute.
So
I don't
think that our position has to be either or. I don't think that we have to give them
Right, that's what I'm saying.
in a statement. We can say that we want to work together. We want to partner with them And George, James, you have a lot of things that you bring to the table and list them. We'd like some answers regarding the various items that you've put in your letter. I don't want to take a stand against them. I do not want to do that. I don't want to line up looking like we're adversaries. I also don't think that we have to say that we totally support them. We are going to partner with them. And as such, we have some items that we'd like them to consider. I mean, I think that it would be a very bad business to take a stand against what they're doing. First of all, I have the question, is it even our business to deal with open space property? I mean, in a way it is, but in a way it's not. So I'm not totally convinced that it is all our, it's not up to totally to us. It's not totally on our table. And I think it's perfectly acceptable either to for this meeting or the next meeting to prepare and talk and discuss, take a little survey to decide what we could propose as a statement. And then vote on at the next meeting. We're not prepared to vote tonight. So if you want to talk about it tonight, that's fine. We have some other things to do tonight, but we have time to discuss this. See how people around the table feel about it.
I think we need to sit down someplace else and discuss it.
Maureen, you're muted.
After being present at the Freedom of Information, no, we need to discuss this in a public manner and make the date and the time and the location available to anyone who wants to attend.
We can kick this down for a while.
I mean, we can
have a lengthy discussion on our agenda for next meeting.
Right. We don't have to discuss it all tonight. We don't have to decide all tonight. I think we need to hear from other members of the committee, our committee, this commission, Gary, as well as George, Ryan. We need to hear.
Well, I'm not
either.
And we don't have any statement to look at. We don't know what we're approving or disapproving or discussing.
I think George made a good point. The trail across that Ames property has been cut by like 5 feet of water right now. So if we were to say something, I was counting on that trail to tie us into the McCullough property, just go across the street, basically up the hill here at the McCullough. So I would want them, I would suggest that they reroute that trail around the southern end of that, right up next to the highway fence. I've been down there. It's just thick. It's a thicket. It could be done. And then we can still use that as a crosstown trail.
Okay, well, I think we need to sit with this a little bit. I don't think anyone's making much of a decision on this tonight, right? Everyone's kind of
Agreed.
okay. Let's move on then.
There is a possibility for us to hold an additional meeting, what they call a special meeting, but it has to be announced, and it has to be labeled, and it has to have certain parameters. In other words, so far in advance posted. and we could have an additional meeting. We're not limited in our conversation, except by freedom of information, it has to be public. We don't really at this point know what we're agreeing or disagreeing with.
I think that
I think
the
that,
point
the point that Evan,
Amanda were
that
making
Amanda were
is do nothing. We let the beavers be, no beaver deceiver. And I mean, right now, I don't have a lot of energy to do anything tonight. And this, I'm not going to stop the beaver situation in the next week. So, you know, we can revisit this the next meeting. I don't think we need to have a special meeting to discuss this. Like I said, is this even that, do we have that much skin in the game for this? I feel like, you know, there's better use of our energy than to, you know, resist the open space committee and, you know, their plans for, you know, the property or first, you know, fighting the natural attenuation of the ecosystem, you know?
We can do that. We don't have to make any move tonight. We don't have to make a motion. We can just discuss it as whatever time you want to, whenever you want to do it. And basically, yeah, okay, so what Anthony said is that their plan is to support the beavers.
And we
and
ebb and
we
flow with
ebb and
them
flow
is
with
what it
them
sounds
is what it sounds
I
like.
mean, if
I mean,
that means
if that means
relocating a trail
relocating a
because
trail
it's underwater
because it's
because the
underwater
beavers,
because the beavers, maybe that is
what their thought
what
is.
their thought is.
Well, we have a right to say anything like that. Do we want to suggest, you know, we will support them? We will partner. I still come back to the word partner. Doesn't mean you have to support somebody necessarily, but we will partner with them. And if we don't believe all of that, what they're doing is positive, then we should be prepared to have a very clear statement saying why. Why not?
Sure, I think
Sure,
we're
I think
45
we're
minutes
45 minutes in on
and
this and
topic,
and
it doesn't sound
it
like they're
doesn't sound like they're doing anything
we
that
have
we
to
have to
get
get
involved
involved
in
in right now. So
Right,
we
right.
can
we can just
say we're
Yeah.
say
open
we're
right
open
now.
right now.
And I
Discussion
think
with them.
keeping the door open to working together are words that would go a long way. Ambiguous enough, but positive enough. So we'll put it on the agenda for April.
Good deal.
Right?
Good deal.
All right. Okay. There's two more things. Let's go back to the
TOCD.
TOCD.
yeah, do we need to do anything about plan of conservation and development?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
I think
I don't
that
think so
sailed.
That
either.
sailed.
I think it's done. It's a
Okay.
done deal.
Okay.
It's underway.
Strike
We're
it.
Strike it.
obligated. How about Tanamahague?
It sounds like
It
that
sounds
level.
like that level.
They got
Now they
parking
got parking
spaces,
spaces,
signage,
signage,
boulders moved.
boulders moved.
I think it's been addressed by first selectmen and what did they do? Put in 2 parking spaces or something? I think it's been settled as far as I could see in the various flow. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh, everybody mute except me. I was at the meeting last night and they basically went with the same plan they had discussed two weeks before. 2 parking places down as far as you can get down in there. And the property owner was there and had written a letter to Tim, and he wants the parking spaces up at the top by the pillars. So Tim said, well, we're not giving up those parking spaces down there, but we'll look into giving an additional parking space up by the pillar. So I think that's kind of like a done deal. We just got to watch it and make sure what's going on there. To me, and guys, when I read his letter again, I mean, he was talking about people trespassing on his property every single day. And I don't know if he's had that problem since then or if it all of a sudden went away. But my thought would be if he has the problem anymore, then we have to make that lane, we have to stop it so vehicles cannot go onto his property, which means rocks or a fence. Speaking of fence, he also said everybody goes down there eyeballs his property. Well, I probably told you this before, but I've been doing it for 30 years and I've eyeballed that property every single time I ever went down there. So my answer to that is an 8-foot wooden fence. So we can't see his property. A little sarcastic, but that's where I am with that.
So that means we don't have to do anything, correct?
That's what I would say.
That's what I would say.
Okay. All right. Okay, Anthony, all yours. Oh, listen, I want to make sure that we vote to accept the minutes of the February meeting. Please, could we do that before we move away from that? Anthony?
Yeah, the February meeting was just you, me, and Tom. Correct? Are you muted again, Maureen? Maureen, you're muted.
We have minutes that I sent to everybody.
Wait.
Did everybody read the minutes?
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there.
I know, but you get the minutes.
Well, we didn't have a meeting though.
Well, we did. We met at 6:30. We ended at 7:15. We talked about, we did not vote because we did not have a quorum. We suggested the slate of officers, so it would require one vote. We still talked about the Ames property. Mentioned the Old Lyme Plan of Conservation and Development. The fact that I put an article into Old Lyme Events magazine.
Right.
And that Holly was the voice in favor of Old Lyme Conservation taking on the watershed management section of sustainability. And I think there's a couple of these members who are interested in doing that.
When you get to that,
I've got something to say.
Okay, but hold on for 1 second. Thank you. So we have minutes. I think we should at least accept them if you read them.
I can't accept them if I wasn't at the meeting. I don't know what was said at the meeting.
Did you read them?
Yep.
Okay.
I accept. I vote to accept.
I accept.
Okay.
I just had to look at them.
No objections.
Maureen, you're muted.
Okay. Okay, and as far as sustainable CT, Holly, are you still there? You want to make any statement about that?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm getting a hot echo. But you would propose that we look into the sustainable watershed education initiatives, and specifically that involves resident and business owner education, where Oberlin would sponsor or host a program to educate residents and business owners in your community about the value of watersheds and the importance of protecting and restoring them. We'd have to submit an overview. It might also involve implementing and maintaining a signage program that highlights key watershed issues, for example, describe low impact development practices or stencil storm drains in a high foot trafficked area. It also involves potentially promoting and encouraging residents and business owners to take a watershed health pledge. Other things that relate to watershed education come under water conservation, where we might host or sponsor a water conservation education workshop that targets local businesses or residents. And then also under low impact development, there might be room to do education projects where Old Lyme would choose one or more target audiences and develop education materials on low impact development practices and their benefits. So that would be, I don't know if conservation wants to get behind those initiatives, but that's more specifically what we're looking for, I think, with regards to watershed education.
Okay, I have a question. George Ryan, was it you that was interested in this topic? George Ryan?
It was I.
Okay, and Gary, so the question is, are you willing to support what the suggested actions are and kind of lead us down the trail?
I'm doing my best on section 3.1.
Okay, that works for me. Okay. Hi, Holly. All right, so the answer is yes. So Holly, you can report back to sustainability that Gary will carry the flag on that one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I will be sending more specifics over to both Gary and George, maybe the specific educational components. Okay. I'm creating an echo and it's not helping, so I'm going to sign off here. But thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Maureen, you're muted again.
The end.
Okay. Are you going to, do you have any more to add about the Old Lyme magazine submission?
About what?
The Old Lyme magazine submission.
No.
Okay, it's on the agenda. It's going through.
Ancient history. Okay, next meeting, Tuesday, April 6th, 6:30.
Very good. Meeting adjourned.
Right. Meeting adjourned. Amen. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone.
George James, what are you eating for dessert? Ice cream? George James, did you have ice cream for dessert? Oh, he's gone. Okay. Okay, thanks, everybody. Everybody sounds tired tonight. End of winter.
Thanks.